So even if I was at the beach just in swim trunks, I had a layer of this lotion on me that blocked some of those frequencies of light from going into my body, and the most important frequencies. So I got sick not because I didn't eat well and didn't work out, because I was never under this thing that our biology and that life spent the past couple millions of years, hundreds of millions of years under, right? Now we're inside all the time.
Nathan, welcome to the Reverse Aging Club. It's good to have you, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Meredith. It's great to be on. Good to see you.
Yeah, and you're the perfect person to launch the podcast under this new name for a whole bunch of reasons. But one of them is that I think you helped launch the Quantum Biology Collective podcast. I think you were like episode 2 or 3 or something like that.
Oh, really?
And you
Like,
were
when was
interviewed. You were interviewed by Peter Bort, or maybe you interviewed him. I can't remember, but the two of you did an episode because my original plan was that it, with the QBC podcast, was that it would be a collective podcast, and I'd get other people to do episodes. And it was a lovely idea, but a logistical nightmare. And also everyone was too shy to record podcast episodes. So I had to make myself the host and get it going.
Yeah, okay. That was a while ago.
That was a while. That was like 3 years ago. Because
Yeah.
we're on, this is like episode 183 or 182, I think. No, 185. This is episode 185. And that was like episode 3.
Okay. You've come a long way.
So the other reason, and then also just quickly on that topic, and we're going back to our roots with the Quantum Biology Collective, it is live and thriving on Substack. So go to Substack, find us on there. All the episodes are there. It's big interactive community, super fun, and truly a collective as the public-facing piece of the Institute of Applied Quantum Biology. And here on this podcast with me, Meredith Oak, we're going to be talking about reverse aging. So the other reason you're such a great guest to launch this is because you are someone who feels better, looks better, is healthier, has more energy, is happier at, I don't even know how old you are, whatever age you are now compared to...
I'm 54, soon to be 55.
Really? Jeez.
Less than a month, yeah.
Okay. And you look way better than you did in your mid-30s. You feel better. Everything's better.
Absolutely.
So you're proof positive that the idea of a biological reversal is possible. So let's talk about how that story started for you, because you had a long and winding path, as many people do, starting with a big emotional upset, inner relationship turmoil, and health turmoil, and wound your way through all of the various paths that the medical establishment has to offer. So tell us a little about that.
Yeah. Well, so actually, let me take something that you said back. I did look,
okay.
I looked good in my mid-30s. Yeah. It wasn't until I started being treated for Lyme disease that I just looked like absolute death. But it started, my journey started in my 30s. Mm-hmm. And it started with occasional fatigue and occasional indigestion, and occasionally I wouldn't sleep well and I'd wake up just tired or tossing and turning through the night. And then every year I'd go to my doctor. I'd say, "Hey doc, something's not right." And I had a great doctor, by the way, Dr. Z, but he would spend probably like 30, 45 minutes with me, just asking me questions. Super nice guy. There were even a couple times, like when I first started to lose my hair, I'm like, "Hey, can you give me like," I forget what it's called now, but can you give me this drug so I can grow my hair back? That he would pull out his like Merck manual. I'd be like, "Well, these are the potential side effects." And one of them was erectile dysfunction. And at the time I was trying to get my wife pregnant. He's like, "So it may not be a good idea." I'm like, "Okay, you're right." But so he was that kind of doctor.
Good for him. Yeah, he's like an informed consent kind of doctor.
Yeah, totally believed in informed consent.
Good for him. Okay.
But he would take my blood, and everything always came back in the normal range. He's like, well, everything looks good, but you're getting older and you're probably stressed. I'm like, well, I am stressed, but I'm 33. Shouldn't be tired all the time. And this literally went on for about 10 years. But I worked out, so I looked physically fit. I ate healthy. So when I would tell my friends, like, something's not right, I don't feel right and I'm tired. They're like, dude, you're like the healthiest person I know. Because I looked the part, and I was like, just, probably 3 steps ahead of all my friends for like, eating organic and drinking purified water, spring water, stuff like that. But then 10 years into it, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, I just think that that's so interesting, right? Like all of your friends were like, you're the healthiest one of all of us, and you're still having these symptoms. Like
Yeah.
being healthy is not what it used to be.
Yeah. It's such a good point. And so, well, 10 years into it, I bumped into this woman I hadn't seen in years. We're friends and we're catching up, and she has like all the same symptoms as me. She's got fatigue and she's not sleeping well, and her her hair was starting to kind of thin a little bit, and just did like very similar symptoms. And she's like, I just went to this integrative medicine doctor, and he's testing my hormones. He like tested my pee and my poop and saliva, blood. I'm like, you can test all that stuff? Like, I didn't know anything about that. Like, I just knew you go to your doctor every year, and your doctor, they tell you what to do. But I tried to take some responsibility for my health and working out and eating well. So I go to this doctor, and he runs all these tests on me, and the tests come back like 2 weeks later. He sits me down. We talk for like an hour. He's like, you've got Lyme disease. You have Bartonella, which is a co-infection. You have Babesia, which is another co-infection. That's a parasitic infection. You have Candida. Your hormones are super low. You're deficient in these vitamins and these minerals. And you have mercury toxicity. I was like,
Jeez. Meanwhile, your GP is like, your labs are normal. Thumbs up.
right.
Have
right.
a nap sometimes.
But I was actually relieved
Wow.
because this is 10 years into it. I'm like questioning myself. I'm like, am I crazy? Like, what's going on here? And
that's a really good point to make, Nathan, because a lot of people feel that, right? It's like you go to the authority, the medical authority, and they say, nothing's showing up. You should be fine. And you don't feel fine. It's a bit of a mind fuck. Like you can really start to, it's a form of gaslighting.
yeah.
So getting these diagnoses is a huge relief.
Yeah. It's hard to recognize or reconcile, but, so I was relieved. I'm like, A, I know what I have. I can address it. B, I'm not crazy. And I swear, I walked out of that doctor's office that day with $1,200 in supplements. I had this big bag. And this is like 14, 15 years ago, when like $1,200 was probably like, in today's dollars, like $2,500. So I have all these supplements. I have a prescription, like an antifungal for Candida. This other drug, nystatin, which is to prevent fungal infection. I don't know. And then, so I did that for 2 weeks, and then he had me on 3 different antibiotics 3 times a day. And I'm thinking, okay, I should be better in a month or so. Got all these, my whole countertop's filled with supplements. I'm taking the antibiotics to kill the Lyme. And I got worse and worse. Do you know what a Herxheimer reaction is?
Yeah. Is that like a healing response where you just spiral?
Yeah. Well, so from taking these medications to kill like Candida and kill the bacteria from Lyme, when it kills them and they die, they basically release toxins in your body. And it can feel worse than the disease itself or the infection itself. And my doctor didn't tell me anything about this. And I remember it was my, at the time, I'm divorced from this woman, but her sister, it was her engagement party. And I'm feeling like horrible. I looked gray. And I say to my wife at the time, I'm like, do I really have to go tonight? She's like, yes, you have to go. It's her engagement party. So I went. I just remember like people looking at me like, what is wrong with Nathan? And so this goes on for several
Yeah.
months. And my weight, it went from 175, because one of the things my doctor said to me, he's like, your weight's always consistent. You're always like within a few pounds of 175. And so my weight went from 175 over 6 months down to 140. And for
Oh
those of you
God.
who are connected with me on Facebook, I have like one photo from that time when I was skinny. There might be two, but I hated how I looked. I was like so embarrassed of how I looked. But I have this one picture on Facebook. It was like me at 140 and then me 18 months later, 14 months later, something like that. And it's just like a night and day difference. But what happened along the way is I was seeing my doctor first once a week, then every other week. And I'd always be like, when am I going to get better? And he's just like, well, you just got to stay the course. And every now and then I'd have like a few days where I was kind of feeling normal. I'm like, all right, did I turn a corner? And then it hits me again. So I was doing all this research, and I came across this guy we both know, Dr. Jack Kruse. And this was 6 months into my research when I found him.
Mm-hmm.
And my brain fog was really bad at this time. My neurological symptoms got much worse from the antibiotics and just all the crap I was on.
Right. So you're on all the antibiotics, which is messing with your gut, which messes with your whole system.
Yeah.
You're taking truckloads of supplements. And at this point, you don't know anything about light.
Zero.
Okay.
Now, the one thing, so this Lyme doc, the one thing, because my sleep had been horrible for years. Like I remember there were times I'd drive to work and not remember my commute to work. And I hadn't drank the night before. I was that tired. I'd be drinking my coffee on the way to work. I'd get to work and it's like, how'd I get to work? Like I was that tired from just horrible sleep. So I had this app on my iPhone. It's a sleep app. So it's like the iPhone has a gyroscope in it so it can detect movements. So this app, it would detect how often I was moving throughout the night. So I have this, you put the phone right by your head when you're sleeping and you have it plugged in.
Oh dear. Okay.
I didn't know any better. I should have, but so I was doing this and I told this Lyme doc, the one thing he was good for, told him, he's like, well, you can't do that. You're going to fry your head. Your phone emits radiation. I'm like, it does? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. So,
well, okay, good for him.
I stopped sleeping with my phone by my bed, but I was an early adopter. I was the first of my friends to have a flat screen TV. I was the first to have an iPhone. I was the first to switch from incandescent bulbs to those like curly Q fluorescent. You remember those? They take like 30 seconds to light up, and they're kind of like turning on and off at first, and they're like glowing, making noises and shit. But
they're the new thing, and they're going to save energy, so we should all switch. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then I had like a Wi-Fi booster in my basement because I put a TV down there, and my router was up in my office on the third floor across from my bedroom where I slept. So I was doing like all these things wrong, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
I come across this guy, Jack Kruse. My brain fog's really bad. I'm like, I don't really know what this guy's writing about, but he's like totally different than everyone else who's saying like meat is bad, or no, you have to do paleo, or, you know, and I was doing every therapy under the sun. I was doing like chiropractic, acupuncture, cupping, cold laser therapy, foot detox, hyperbaric oxygen. I didn't have any kids, and I made a decent income. So I was just like throwing money at everything I could do, and nothing moved the needle. I come across Jack Kruse, and one of the first blogs I read was on cold thermogenesis. I had moved from upstate New York to Washington, D.C. after I graduated college because I hated the cold. I was just like, I don't like the cold, but I'm like so desperate, I will do anything. So I started doing cold thermogenesis. I started wearing blue blockers, and I just kind of gradually phased these different things in. I'd go out in the morning, watch the sunrise. I got these grounding strips, like for my shoes. It was like a strap, not a strip, a strap. But I had these high tension power lines by me, and I was walking a lot. And I remember like feeling like these mild electric shocks walking by these high tension power lines. And then I'm like, probably not a good idea to be like living here, so close to these high tension power lines. But I just, I learned these things kind of slowly, and I would implement them. And just from the cold baths alone, I was feeling much better than I had in years. And I stayed with it. I used to go to this woman for Thai massage, and her and her boyfriend opened up a CrossFit yoga studio. And she started out doing them out of her house, and then they opened this CrossFit yoga place, and the yoga place was on the other side of the CrossFit studio. So I remember walking through the CrossFit gym, these guys and girls doing these crazy workouts. I was so intimidated because I used to be fit, and now I'm just this little skinny, weak guy. And so I'd be walking as fast as I could to get to my Thai massage. And around that time, a friend of mine started doing CrossFit. He's like, dude, you got to do CrossFit. It's amazing. I'm like, dude, there's no freaking way. Like, I can't do any workout right now. I have like zero energy. And within, I think it was like 2 months, I had the energy where I signed up to do CrossFit.
Wow.
So I started.
So within 2 months of cleaning up your light and electromagnetic environment.
Yeah.
You were able.
Well, maybe it was 3 months actually. But it was a little bit long because I found Jack Kruse in August. I started CrossFit. It was more like 4 months now that I think about it.
Right. But unlike when you were doing the antibiotics and the supplements, you were getting worse. And then you brought in the light, you brought in the circadian rhythms, you brought in the mitigation of non-native EMFs. The course changed direction.
Yes.
Okay. So the timeline to being able to do something as intense as like a CrossFit was 4 months, but there was progress as opposed to spiraling.
There was steady progress.
Okay. Got it. So I think this is such an important story. And I'm going back to what you said earlier about actually I looked pretty good in my mid-30s because I think we've been so conditioned to think if you're eating well and you're working out and you look pretty good, all is well.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at health from the mitochondrial level, that is not necessarily true. And when you moved from traditional medicine to functional medicine to now the quantum biologic view of health, you sort of went through all of the phases until you got down to the lens that allowed you to truly heal. Right.
Yeah. And so along the way, I fired my first Lyme doctor 6 months into it. I found another Lyme doctor. I mean, this guy was like 80 years old and he just talked super slow. He billed $450 an hour. Insurance doesn't cover like Lyme doctors. So I found this other doctor. She was much younger, had a different approach. And, but as I started learning this, I realized I'm like, this is hurting me. She has me on fewer antibiotics, but it's hurting me. I discovered Jack Kruse, I think, when I was with this woman. And so then I'm like, I'm going to switch to a functional medicine doctor, thinking this will complement this nicely. But the functional medicine doctor, she had the same approach too. She was putting me on melatonin for sleep, or she recommended it. By that time I knew, don't take melatonin. And she was just selling me more supplements, and she didn't know anything about light either. So then I'm just, you know what? I don't need these doctors. And if I break my arm, I'll go to a doctor. But the doctors I had the realization like they're like at least 100 years out of date of what we know in published science, right? Because if you think about it, going back to like 1920s, we had Albert Einstein with the photoelectric effect.
Yeah. Okay, so expand on that. What is Albert Einstein and the photoelectric effect? which is what he won a Nobel Prize for, not relativity. What does that have to do with you feeling better?
Yeah, well, so you could probably, I'm outside, you can probably see the sun on my face right now, but those photons of light, they're exciting electrons in my cells, in my mitochondria. They're making them like jump up a level. And I'm not probably the best one to talk about quantum physics. I understand it at some level. I'm more about the application, but the
Perfect.
photons
That's
are
what we are
exciting.
after.
They're exciting electrons. They're creating energy. And the sun has this full spectrum. It goes from like 200 nanometers to 300 to 3000 nanometers, right? And those different frequencies do different things for our cells. So at like the bottom end right now, it's there's like a little bit of UVB, but there's more UVA. And like the UVA is going in my eye right now, and it's making like dopamine, it's making serotonin, it's making melatonin, so I get a better night's sleep tonight. It's telling my body to make melanin, which helps me absorb more sunlight. And it can even store that sunlight. It's pretty crazy. But then you go up to the higher end, like above 600 nanometers, you have infrared light, which is non-visible. So like 60% of the sun that I'm getting right now, I can't see it. I can feel it. My cells can use that to make energy. So from that infrared light, it can make ATP, which is like our stored form of energy. And it also makes melatonin. So one of the things people don't really understand about melatonin is that's like your body's built-in sunscreen, because it's a huge antioxidant. It gives you like a natural SPF, sun protector factor of 15. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, Meredith has probably told you to go out and watch the sunrise. And when you do that, there's a lot of red light, and that helps your body to make melatonin. So when the sun gets stronger, you can deal with that inflammation that's created from the UV light. And then a little bit later in the day, I'll be making some UVB. I'll be making vitamin D from UVB as that gets stronger. So it kind of works out well that I was able to come out and do this, because when we started this podcast, we had some technical difficulties. I was in my office, and so I ended up coming down here. But the reason I got into the trouble I got in is because the way our modern world is designed it's completely disconnected us from nature. So it has us inside 90% of our time. And then the 10% we're outside, we're in clothes, wearing sunglasses in many cases. I still have like 20 pairs of sunglasses, because I was kind of like a sunglass whore. I was like just always looking for like the coolest new shades. So even when I was outside, and my ex-wife would always be slathering on sunscreen on me. So even if I was at the beach just in swim trunks, I had a layer of this lotion on me that blocked some of those frequencies of light from going into my body, and the most important frequencies. So I got sick, not because I didn't eat well and didn't work out, because I was never under this thing that like our biology and that life spent the past couple millions of years, hundreds of millions of years under, right? And all of a sudden, like in the past 100,
sun.
like in the past 100, now we're inside all the time. And like when we were growing up, the lights we had inside were incandescent, right? So like a portion of that frequency that we got from incandescent light was infrared, which our cells could use. Even though it wasn't from the sun, it was from a light bulb. Our cells could still use that to make energy, to make melatonin, to reduce inflammation. And then with the whole like green movement to save the planet, first they created these fluorescent light bulbs, which by the way, they have mercury in them. If you like read the fine print when you buy those things, like if you break this in your house, call the EPA. But
that's with those fluorescent light bulbs with the coil.
Yeah, yeah.
They have, okay. So we were buying mercury and bringing it into our homes
Right.
to save the planet. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Seems like a good
sure
plan.
like when most people replace them with LEDs, they didn't call the EPA. They just went to a landfill, right? Where they got crushed and all that mercury is like released in the environment. So that's good for the environment. But we have these other light bulbs now with just like a very, very tiny piece of that spectrum of sunlight from the 200 or maybe it's 150 nanometers to 3000. We have like just this tiny portion of it. And a majority of that portion that we have in those light bulbs is blue light. And people know that UV light causes inflammation because it's a very high energy light. But if you like look at the rainbow, blue sits very close to purple. So blue's a high energy light too. And there's blue light in the sun, but there's a whole lot more red and infrared, which is anti-inflammatory. But when we're inside for like 12 hours a day under those lights, that blue doesn't have the red, the anti-inflammation. So that blue is causing inflammation. It's also telling your body that it's daytime. So when you get ready for sleep at night and your bathroom has like 10 light bulbs in there so you can see every blemish on your face and you're tired because you've been working all day, and then you lay down to go to bed and all of a sudden you're kind of wired. It's like you've been like blasting yourself with light that's telling your brain it's daytime. So you get more cortisol and less melatonin. And then it takes you 2 hours to fall asleep. And then you wake up tired.
Yep. It's really amazing how much sunlight does for our biology, our psychology, our spirituality, our emotional health, our physical health. Sunlight and darkness at night. And I'm thinking about your story and how in your quest to heal the Lyme and the Candida and all of that, the biochemical model was such an incomplete picture for what you needed in totality.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to, I totally disregard supplements and antibiotics. They for sure have a place. And I did like the purist route for a few years, like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
My body can do it all on its own. And I now have some things I take and some things I do. And, I wear the patches and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But to start with a supplement, it's like you don't even know what you're supplementing for if you don't have the foundation of light in place.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you work with clients, you start with that foundation. And what have you, over your years working with clients through this perspective, what have you observed?
Yeah, well, so the first step, it's reestablishing that connection with nature. And it's really trying to mitigate all the things like the light bulbs that we talked about. So just fixing their environment and just helping them understand that the sun is your friend. It's not toxic. How to properly use the sun. Because I mean, a lot of people, for animals, it's very intuitive. Like my little dogs are outside right now, and my one little dog is lying in the sun right now. But at some point, he's going to move to the shade because he knows when he's had enough sun. But a lot of humans they don't have any concept of that. It's like they go to the beach once a year, maybe, and they're in sunscreen, and the rest of the time, maybe they mow their lawn or they garden or they go for a jog or a walk in the park, but they're not like intentionally seeking out the sunlight. But to answer your question, it's different for everyone. I have this one client. I love how you brought up like the spiritual component of it, because most people, like when you're sick, all you can think about is getting better. And that really disconnects you from God or universe, like whatever your spiritual belief is. But I had this one client, like very smart guy, had done a lot of research. He just didn't research the same stuff I researched. And he had ulcerative colitis, and he went through the whole medical system and it made him worse. And he knew, like, when I eat seed oils, like that just destroys his gut. And he's like on the toilet like 10 times a day. But he did not understand the light component. And over the course of us working together, he did make some progress with ulcerative colitis. He wasn't fully healed at the end of 3 months. He was moving in the right direction. But the one thing he was blown away with was his like reconnection with God. And he had these, not a reoccurrence, but these memories came up of some traumatic events from his life. And he's like, I had no idea why I came to work with you. I thought it was for ulcerative colitis. Now I understand this is why I came to work with you. And this traumatic event from 1986 came up. And so we started working on that. And now he's like, I'm going to write a book about this. Wow. And his life purpose and focus has like completely shifted. So he has this foundation of things to do that, and a lot of times when we get a sickness, people, they're so used to thinking they can take a pill to make it all better. Like some things take a long time to heal. They can take longer. They can take a lot longer than what we want, because in many cases, it took us 40 years to get there, or 30 years, or however many years. You're not going to resolve that just from a month of watching the sunrise, getting sun, and eating lots of seafood. But the real shift for a lot of people who do well is like understanding the lifestyle they have been living wasn't helping them, and that this new lifestyle is, as they continue to do it, they're going to get more and more benefits.
Yeah. Wow, that's really powerful. And I think it brings up an important point, which is that applying these principles of light and darkness and connecting to nature and viewing our environment as a piece of our health, including things we can't see, like radiation and infrared light, that is the foundation, right? Like if you don't have that, you're building your house on sand. However, as you were just so beautifully put it, having this strong foundation is the beginning of the journey. And it can go in a lot of different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think, the spiritual, emotional, psychological piece with all of this is real. And that can be the next doorway that this opens up. Because for me, when I started paying attention to the light and to the sun, I started to orient myself around where the sun was in the sky. And that actually had like a profound spiritual effect on me. And I've since spoken to spiritual teachers who don't know anything about quantum biology, but they talk about orienting yourself in time and space. And one of them was teaching me a meditation where you know where you are in regards to your position of something, say in the room. And I said, what about in the sky? And he was like, oh, even better. And then he went on to explain like the spiritual significance of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's, I think, subconscious, but it definitely shifted a lot for me and made me and raised my level of awareness in general, not just in regards to my physical health.
Yeah. Well, what it did, Meredith, it helped you remember who you are. like, I don't share this with my clients in the beginning, but my goal is to help people remember who they are.
Beautiful.
Because people have become so disconnected from their potential, like from their ability to think, right? And there's so many things like blue light is damaging your pineal gland, your connection to source energy. Fluoride in our water is damaging your pineal gland. These different chemicals that we're exposed to, it's damaging your pineal gland. But then when you reconnect with nature through grounding and getting sunlight, and you're more intentional about breathing and doing these meditations. Was that a gateway meditation, by the way?
No, it was from a man called Mazati,
Oh, okay.
who had a bunch of near-death experiences and downloaded some,
Okay.
some meditations.
Yeah. Well,
But
there's
I have done Gateway as well, I think. Is
okay.
that the Monroe Institute?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have those.
Yeah. Because there's like an orientation one in space. So I was wondering that.
Oh, I haven't got to that yet. I didn't know that. Okay, I'm going to do that one next.
Yeah. But yeah. So it's not only improving your health, but yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because I wasn't going to bring this up. But it reconnects you with your source energy. And it's like you think about these famous people throughout history, like Alexander the Great, like figured out a way to like conquer half the country, half the world, and like all this stuff like Michelangelo accomplished, and like Thomas Edison, and maybe he developed all that. He's kind of like controversial. Some people are like, well, he didn't invent anything. He had these people, but just you look at these people who just have like this amazing list of accomplishments, and like the architecture from like thousands of years ago that still stands today, and the detail, and it's still in perfect condition in some instances. So we have this amazing like ability to think a while ago. And I'm not saying there's not smart people today, but it just seems to me like a lot of people they're like only doing like a fraction of what they're really capable of. So for me, that's what it's really about. It's like, it's reconnecting and like teaching people to think. Like I'm surrounded by these chirping birds right now. I'm not sure if you can hear it through the headphones, but I have these bird feeders. It reminds me of this story. Did you ever hear the story of Richard Feynman when he was like little? The bird story?
No, tell it.
So Richard Feynman, one of the reasons he was such an intelligent guy is because his father really understood the importance of thinking. And right around this time, Rockefeller was investing in our education system. Like Rockefeller and Carnegie spent more on building out the U.S. education system than the U.S. government, because it was all about compliance. That was the main thing. I'm trying to think the other thing. Memorization. But Feynman's father always taught him to think. And there was this one day Feynman was playing with a bunch of kids, and one of the kids is like, "Do you know what bird that is?" And he's like, "No, I don't know what that is." He's like, "Well, your father didn't teach you anything, did he?" So young Richard goes home to his father, is like, tells him the story. His father's like, "There are hundreds of languages. You can know that name of the bird in every language, but you know nothing about the bird other than the name man gave it." He said, to know the bird, study the bird. What is that bird's song? What does the bird eat? Does the bird migrate? And it's like our educational institutions have like never taught that. So a lot of people who are considered smart got really good at memorizing facts, but they didn't get good at thinking and observing. And it's like healthcare, that's just a name they gave something. But if you think about it, if you observe it, it's like anything but healthcare. And this past weekend, my college fraternity had its 80th reunion. I reconnected with people I haven't seen in like 35 years.
Oh, fun.
It was an amazing time. But all these people apparently follow my stuff on Facebook because they never comment or like on it. But so many people are talking to me about this stuff. It's like, Nathan, tell me about grounding. I'm like, dude, take off your fucking flip-flops and just walk around outside. Like, these are people who are like super successful. Like, they retired at 50. And they're like, I don't understand like why LEDs are so bad. And I'm explaining it to them. It's not because they're dumb. It's because they grew up in a world where they were told health means going to your doctor every year and getting your checkup and doing what your doctor says. And we have a lot of smart people that have this, like, it's an invisible rule. They followed it for so long, they don't even realize they follow it. So what Meredith is really doing is she's trying to get you to break that rule and to look at the bird. You don't have to know the name of the bird, but observe and just study and just go outside and like pay attention to how you feel when you're walking around in the grass and looking at the sun. So I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
I love that tangent. Listen, Nathan, you're speaking my language. This is what the Reverse Aging Club is for. You articulated it beautifully. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, that's it. It's when people come, when practitioners go through the certification at the Institute of Applied Quantum Biology, they're like, well, what makes a good coach or what makes a good practitioner? I'm like, you're a detective. You're a detective following the clues and observing and watching what's going on. And you've just expanded the scope through which you can view your clients and your patients. But we can also just do that ourselves. And I think it's important to have a health coach like you are. It's very important, I think, to have a mentor, but that mentor, a good one, like as you just explained, you're going to leave that person empowered. You're going to leave that person with more agency and more understanding to observe the bird, the bird being your own self and your own life.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, that's being a detective. It's so true. There's not like, you do cold baths and then you do this. It's like you start to do these things, you observe how you respond to them, and you do more of what you respond well to. And some of the stuff, some people might do a face dunk and it doesn't make them feel well. And in the beginning, some of these things, they're going to rub you a little bit the wrong way, possibly. Especially if I was a night owl most of my life. I was up till during the week when I had to be at work early. I was up till 12:30. The weekends, it was like all night sometimes. So going to bed around 9:30, that was not an easy thing at first. Right. And you might go through a couple of weeks of transition. But if you just try to go to bed like a little bit earlier, and the first week or so you toss and turn, you're like, oh, this doesn't work for me. But when you stay the course, miracles will happen.
So many. And they keep happening. And then like your client with the ulcerative colitis, it's like, I might start down the path for thinking I just need to solve this physical problem. And then a door opens up and it's like, oh, actually, there's a whole other issue. That is because, we're all energy, all tied together. And then we need to find the courage to, clear out the trauma and maybe take a look at something that was not in the original plan.
Yeah. Well, and when you think about it, trauma is it's a form of stored energy. It's light, right? It's not light we can see. But there's a lot of talk about trauma today. And for a lot of people, that's the first place I start. because when you have unresolved trauma, that's like probably the number one trigger keeping people stuck. And when people get super stressed out, they're going to turn to the stuff they've always turned to that helps them cope, with that unresolved trauma, like binge watching TV or eating a tub of ice cream or, spending 2 hours on reels or, some people watch porn. But you know what? You actually brought this to my attention, Meredith. I forget the call. Maybe it was like a coaching call for people that were helping out with like the quantum biology, quantum TV in the beginning. It went through a couple of name changes. But there was something that I brought up on the call. I think you asked for volunteers, and I had just had like kind of, I don't want to call it an argument. It was more of like a disagreement with my wife. And I brought it up, and I was saying how she was triggered, and you're like, well, it sounds to me like you're the one who was triggered, Nathan. You said, well,
sounds like something I would say.
And I was just like, at first it kind of stung, but then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, oh, she's right. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And it's like lots of times, like the things that trigger us, it's not the thing that just happened. It's like something that happened when we were 6 years old, right? And maybe you worked on something really hard, and then you show your mom, and your mom's just tired because she had a long day, and she's just like, not now, honey. And then you like form this belief, like, I'm never enough. And fast forward like 30 years later, you do something around the house, and then your wife comes home, and you're hoping your wife will notice you finally did something that she's always ragging you about. And she's tired, and she doesn't notice, and she says something, and all of a sudden you're upset, and you think you're upset at your wife, but that actually resonated with that energy stuck in your body from 6 years old. And now you're 6 and you're actually arguing with your mom or your dad, and you have no idea, right? And you think it's your wife or your husband, right? So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, because those are the things that trip us up. We can have everything dialed in, but if we're locked in a mental framework that is triggered by trauma and we don't even know it, life is still going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And I think laying this foundation provides us with a lot of biological, physiological, emotional safety. I think it's a good foundation before doing the type of work that you just described. It's good for you. Not everyone hears that coaching. Some people are just like, F you, Meredith.
Yeah. But, well, there was a time in my life I probably would have been that person. But, at some point we have to just reflect and admit we've made some mistakes, and we have some opportunities to grow. And it's like, I always tell people, it's like, you never get there. It's like, you want to get to this place, but then if you do what you're supposed to do, you get to that place, but then there's like, oh, well, now I have to get to this place. Right. So if you're doing it right, it's a constant journey. You never get there. Going back to like the spiritual perspective, like my belief is our goal of being on this earth is to evolve as a spirit. And we've done this hundreds, thousands of times. And it's like, you are like, get there throughout your life, or you're going to repeat like all the shit that you hate in your life. Because as a spirit, you failed on planet Earth. So some incentive for you to like maybe work on yourself more, so you don't like come back and get born into like having like a mean parent or going through some kind of abuse.
Let's just do it. And that's what I say to myself when I'm in those moments where I'm like, I really don't want to take responsibility for this. I really don't want to step up. I really don't want to admit my part. I'm like, okay, Meredith, how free do you want to be? How free do you want to be? And my answer is always, okay, I want to be more free than I am right now. Fine. Because, I mean, in my experience, there's always a path to more freedom. There's always a solution. It's just a matter of finding it and following it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's not like, oh, and by solution, I don't mean everything's going to turn out the way you want it to. Because sometimes the solution is not at all what we expect and or want. And maybe we don't even recognize it. Oh, I'm not doing that person. Like they put an ad on Instagram. I'm not hiring them, even though the message was like exactly what you needed. It's like, you know, like we have these little blocks, and like when we start looking for those solutions, they pop up. The clues are there.
It's miraculous.
It certainly is. Nathan, this has been so super fun. I just want to wrap up on one topic. I spent the first part of my adult life avoiding the sun. I remember when I was like 18, I went on a trip to Mexico, and I was so proud of myself that I left Mexico after a week, basically the same color, the same shade of pale as when I arrived. I was that person. And then God put in my path this genius Hungarian esthetician. And I went to see her in my early 20s, and she examined my skin, which was pretty good. I was in my early 20s. And she was like, "You need more sun. Sun is life." And I was like, this was like the top rated skin lady in all of Toronto. Like I found her because that's where all of the like on air talent, people who are like on TV because I worked in the TV industry at the time, they all went to her. So really I was like, what? So I thank God for her all of the time, because that really did. I didn't fully understand any of this for many years after, but it did shift, and I did like lay off a little with my approach to the sun. And when I had kids, I wasn't as insane with the sunscreen as I would have been, and I'm so super grateful to that woman. But basically, I thought my connection with the sun was the sun ages you. The sun ages you. And yes, that you can, there is going to be some sun damage on our skin when we spend a lot of time outside. But as my Dr. Leland Stillman says, he's like, do you want a little sun damage on your skin, or do you want to live a long, healthy life? Like, pick one. But anyway, when I started to understand about circadian rhythm, I got the message, no. The sun doesn't age you. The sun reverse ages you. And I was like, what? What now? So could you just speak to that for a minute in terms of like the clocks in our bodies and the idea that what we were told is a age accelerant is actually potentially an age reverser?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like the foundation of quantum biology is our circadian rhythm, right? So we have these clocks, biological clocks in our body, and the main one is like our supracosmatic nucleus. It's close to our pineal gland, but the reason we tell people to go out and watch the sunrise is because sun is like energy and information. So you have like 126 million photoreceptors in your eyeballs. You have them on your skin too. The main ones are in your eyeballs. And they're able to like interpret the different photons and tell your body what time it is. And your body has all these different functions and processes to do. That's all controlled by your circadian rhythm. And there's tons of them. And every cell has a CCG. It's called a circadian clock gene. So it's telling your body like what to do and when to do it. And your body's in constant communication. Like every cell has like 100,000 biochemical reactions every second. And those are all coordinated. You have trillions of cells. So all the cells know what they're doing. That's all controlled by light, which is controlled by circadian rhythm. So when you are connected with the sun and your circadian rhythm is good, you're building healthier levels of hormones, but you're also doing repair and regeneration. So if you're inside all day, you're not getting that stimulus on your skin, plus you're getting inflammation. It's actually aging you. It's impacting your sleep. You do a majority of your repair and regeneration at night when you're sleeping. But if you got ready in your bathroom with 10 bright LED lights and it takes you 2 hours to fall asleep after that, and you have less melatonin, you're doing like less repair and regeneration. And so when you stack that over time, over decades, you're, if you don't regenerate, you degenerate. But if you stack it the other way, where you're getting sun every day, you're setting your clock, your body is doing that much more regeneration. It's, more technical term is autophagy. It's cellular repair. So it's like your habits are going to get you your results. And if your habit is to like set your clock every single day, things are going to run smoother. You're going to make more of the chemicals, hormones that keep you young, that help you think, more dopamine, more serotonin. And you're going to also, we're talking about, I think before we got on the call, stem cells. That's also going to help to replenish your stem cells as well. So there's a lot that's really connected, but when we spend more time inside, we have more inflammation. When we spend more time outside, we have less inflammation. And most people that don't even know a lot about health know like inflammation drives all chronic disease. And we want to be doing things that reduce inflammation.
Right. Well said. So yeah, if I have like 100 clocks in my house and they're all on a different time, like how is my day going to go? And and blackout curtains down, like I'm going to be wildly confused. And that's what we're doing to our bodies versus putting them in sync and allowing them to flow the way they were meant to. Love it. Nathan, this was wonderful. I'm going to have you back because there's so many conversations to be had. And yeah, the Reverse Aging Club is here for the conversations and the growth and the freedom. And what was it you said, what you're really doing for your clients to bring them back?
Remembering who you are.
Yeah. Love it. So if you're listening to this and you would like to remember who you are, please go to Nathan Walz, NathanWalz.com, and you can schedule a call with Nathan and talk about hiring him as your coach. Or you can listen to his new show, which is, where can people find your new show, Nathan?
It's the Quantum Biology Revolution. It's on, forgive me, I think it's like redpillstv.com. But if you go on Rumble and put in Quantum Biology Revolution, that should come up. And the upcoming episode is actually of me interviewing Meredith. So if you want to hear more about Meredith's story and like her origin story almost, and what she's really turned the Applied Institute of Quantum Biology into, it's an amazing story. And I'm sure a lot of you have been following along, but it's something that's evolved along the way. And it's been fun to watch. I've learned a ton from Meredith's platform and from her podcast. And I'm excited to continue to follow the journey and learn additional ways to reverse aging, because I'm still researching and learning new things and tweaking things. So there's always something new you can do.
Yes, it's a whole new world and we're going to enjoy living in it. Thank you for being here, Nathan. Really, really good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Meredith.